Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, can I have a question about the paper due on October 2?
Sure, sige, go ahead.
Are we lang, sir? Are we parang limited to the deck, or can we like look at the past presentations that the LGU gave? Like, can we look at like, because parang I noticed na it's only like for 1 year's number ata, if I'm not mistaken. Can we use like the other year's numbers to check like the trend, mga ganon?
Sige,
Or
I'll discuss that later. No, that's one of most the most frequently asked questions. The short answer is no, because it's not really it's just it's an exercise at looking at data. No? So I wouldn't want you guys to go beyond, no? To keep the assignment simple. Yeah, but I'll discuss that more later. Thanks for asking that. That's part of my deck later. I'll provide some answers to FAQs later.
thank
Don't
you,
worry.
sir.
Sir, I have a question about the paper also. Um, is
Sige,
it
go.
by is it by individual or by group? Individual, right?
It's individual. It's individual. I was tempted to have it by dyads, no? But kaya nyo na yan. It's only 2 pages.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, maybe we'll wait for a minute or two pa. So the good news is the session will be short, no? Maybe an hour, not even an hour 15, because we're just gonna finish module 2 tonight. So I expect some of you are still trying to finish module 2. We'll start module 3 next week. So we'll cover the rest of module 2 this evening, and then I'll talk about the assignment, the first graded assignment later at the end. All right, so I think we can start. No, we have a good number, no, critical mass. No, thank you guys for joining. No, I know I don't check attendance, but I'm really happy when I see a lot of students joining. No? So thank you for that. All right, so this is part 2 of module 2. We'll just finish module 2 as I announced earlier. No, this should be a short session, an hour plus minus 5 minutes or so. I plan to finish by say 7:15 at the latest. I'll cover module 2, and then we'll talk about the assignment. If you have questions later as well. I also included some FAQs there at the end. But if you have more questions, feel free to ask. All right. I trust that you can hear me well and you can see my deck, no? Can someone confirm?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. All right. So, a few announcements. So I hope everyone is okay with the groupings, no? I hope that everyone has a group, no, for Opman, for NSTP. So as I announced before, no, the final integrated output is a common output across the three modules, classes. And then we will follow the Opman and NSTP grouping. So I think some of you have already had your area orientations last Saturday. The rest of you, I think, will be done by this week, no? Or I think Saturday even. So if you still have issues with your groups, no, please let me know. No? But I think everyone has a group by now. So I'm not sure if you guys actually selected your group mates or you were sort of randomly assigned. Whatever it is, please cooperate within the group. So by the way, as I will announce later on, it will be in Canvas. I think it's in the syllabus as well. No? Your groupings for the final integrated output will be the same for the grouping for the group assignments for assignment number 2. So treat assignment number 2 as a practice for your own group dynamics in preparation for the FI. So that will be the same group. Let me just get my pointer. All right. Module 3 is already up. I don't know if most of you have finished module 2 already, but just in case you're already looking forward to module 3, it's already up. As indicated in Canvas, my suggested pace is if you can finish module 2 by September 25, that's this week, Saturday. And then you can start module 3 after that by October 18. But I will definitely post module 4 before October 18, definitely. I have the material. No? I'm practically using material from my previous classes, but I usually like to update the information, more recent information, more recent articles, etc. So again, as everyone knows, reminder on the first graded assignment due on October 2, 11:59 p.m. I'll talk about that more. By the way, sorry, this is an old slide that I forgot to update. No, I will accept late submissions. Late submissions are okay, but you'll get a 5-point deduction out of 100 for each day that it's late. So, except if it's because of internet connectivity issues, but you have to send me the Word document so I can see when the last notification date and time was. So it should still show October. And this is very important. Some have already reached out to me, but please really do let me know if you're going through stressful circumstances and you would need additional accommodation. For example, if you yourself have COVID or you're hopefully not, or a family member has COVID and you have to take care of them, please let me know if you're okay, especially if you need additional accommodation. Health is the most important thing these days. No? So everything else can take a backseat. So take care, especially if you have COVID, rest. Academics can take a backseat. All right. So let me know if you need accommodation. No? That's part of Cura Personalis that they teach in Ateneo. So, all right. Module 2. Any questions? Just let me know if you have questions before I go through the substance. Module 2. So module 1, we covered the income-based measures of poverty incidence, subsistence incidence, Gini, inequality, etc., etc. Now, we're now going to shift gears and go through the non-income-based measures, some of the most frequently used or standard measures that we have. So we'll go through the um, two sets of measures: basic needs versus capabilities. We'll also go through global or international measures, no, that many countries use. Then we'll take a look at what the Philippine government and Philippine society in general use, no, in terms of measures, no, both at the national level, regional, and even up to the local government level, which is a good segue to your first graded assignment. And we'll also cover some innovative things, no, that other countries have come up with. No? So we'll visit an innovative measure of well-being. No? This is from Bhutan. It's called the gross national happiness. So we'll cover that, and then finally we'll talk about the graded assignment. All right. So non-income measures, no. And I'll share again, as I'll share the slide after this session. No? If in case you don't know, for the information of your classmates who are not able to attend all synchronous sessions, I usually post the recording of these classes and the decks themselves, no, at the end of the corresponding module. So I'll post this and the deck at the end of module 2, by tonight or by tomorrow. So I usually upload the video on YouTube. The good thing with YouTube, by the way, if you don't know, no, and I use this a lot for my class, no, when I'm looking for videos, you can like click on the open transcript, so you can actually have a running transcript. No? So you don't need, if you're looking for a particular section lang, you can use that window, so you know where to find that particular segment that you wanted to revisit or visit. So one good tip for that's why I use YouTube frequently. All right. As an icebreaker, no? Can someone tell me, why do we actually need to have non-income measures of poverty? Is it just we want to be geeks and have more data that, you know, the more data, the better? Or is there, does it make sense? Why do we need, or why do we want, or why do we have non-income measures of poverty? Based on your own thoughts now, or based on your reading, your viewing of the Canvas material? Any thoughts? Why? Why aren't we satisfied with just the power? Go ahead, Marco.
Sir, from the Canvas and also the readings, parang it was saying that even if like GNI or GDP was increasing, it doesn't necessarily mean that the people in the country have like a good quality of life. So like in the example, parang they were saying that in the reading, they were saying about like a split family in Brazil, that one of them had a really good life and one of them had a really bad life despite the like economic improvement of the country. So parang maybe we can like the income measures of poverty isn't really like on a holistic picture of what's actually happening to the people in the country.
Very good. No? So you talked about it be income measures as not providing a holistic viewpoint. So that's good. No? Anyone else? Andrea?
Yes. Sir, can you hear me po?
Yes, yes. Nice
Okay.
headphone.
Thank you po. I think just from one point of view, I feel like income kasi is more parang ends lang siya, and sometimes you don't know the means, like they could have high income pero yung means of getting it could be not necessarily legal ways of procuring it. Tas aligned na rin yun sa sinabi ni Marco na it could be quality of life, ganyan, tas yung values ng person. So, something like that.
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. So actually, we'll go through that when we discuss the capabilities approach. No? Talking about, well, sometimes income is a means, sometimes it's also the outcome of certain things. No? So it can go both ways. No? But again, going back to Marco's point, correct. No? Income does not provide a complete picture. No? Very good. All right. Exactly. So going back to Marco's point, no, income or expenditure, no, because we talked about I mean, some economists are arguing you can do it via the expenditure or consumption route. They're still both monetary means. So monetary means or monetary measures are not enough to capture the range, no, of deprivation. It's not holistic. No? So again, similar to what Marco was saying, no, the GNI, no, similar to a country or a house, development is more than income. No? And same with what you're saying, Andrea. No? It's not the be all and end all. It's kind of like our session in our lesson in module 1, where it's economic growth, it's just the income part, versus economic development, because development is more broad. And again, the facets of poverty and well-being are integrated. No? Income is important, but it's not the totality of what someone is experiencing. There are many dimensions of poverty. No? So, for example, if you go to a house, they are poor, no, and then you see they have a leaking roof. That's in Canvas, no, or in Todaro, I think. And then they have poor access to water, electricity. It shows you a better, more complete picture. So, when we're talking about non-income measures and combining them with income measures, no, our paradigm now is like we're like doctors. Now, for doctors, no, when they want to see what's wrong with you, they don't just look at you and get your pulse. If something's really bothering you, they ask for complete blood test, they ask for a urine test, so a lot of different indicators. And that will give them a better picture of what you're probably going through. The same thing with poverty. That's the lens we want to know. Because the more, and we'll go through this, and that's why I'm giving assignment 1 as an exercise. The more you're able to diagnose properly, the better your chances of providing appropriate intervention. So that's the point. No? That's the point of non-income measures, to be able to provide a better picture and eventually, come up with appropriate interventions based on what's problematic. Because if it's not problematic, then maybe you can focus less on that, then focus more on the problem areas. So there are two approaches, no? The basic needs approach when it comes to non-income measures, no? And the capabilities approach. And can anyone tell me what's the difference between the two? And which one do you think is more superior? Which one's better? What do you guys think? Which one's better? Sige, Amaya, go ahead.
The main difference, well, simple definition lang. Basic needs, it's basic needs, parang food, water, ganon. And then the capabilities is more of parang what a person can achieve in their lifespan. So parang years of schooling or something like that.
All right, thank you, Amaya. That's a good point. Basic needs, it's, and I'll get to my points later. No? Capabilities is more towards something. No? It's not the end state. No? Sophia, you wanted to say something.
Oh yeah, for me, sir, between the two approaches, I think the capabilities approach is more superior because I think capabilities approach is more sustainable because since you're actually you providing all of these resources for themselves beyond just relying on income to do that. So yeah, that's my answer, sir.
Okay, great. Thanks. Isabel, you also wanted to say something?
Yes, sir. I agree with Sophia, but that the capabilities approach is a lot more, it captures more of the issues that poverty presents in the sense that in giving them more opportunities to be capable to do, certain things such as be able to achieve receive those basic needs that they need. So yes.
Yeah, sorry. You were a bit choppy at the end, but I get your point, and you guys are all correct. No? And actually, I'm just gonna repeat what you guys are saying. Basically, basic needs, as Amaya mentioned, it's what you need, no? What your basic needs are. What do you need for a decent quality of life? food, shelter, etc., etc. Capabilities, if you were to distinguish, no, basic needs is more passive. No, what do I need? I need this, I need that, cash, etc., etc. Capabilities is actually goes beyond. No, what do you need for you to achieve your potential? So there's more sense of agency. It's more active. No? What would a person need? Kind of like education, no? If you think about it, education is really, no, if you want to be super technical about it, you can survive without education, right? It's not a core basic need. Food, shelter, clothing, yes. But for example, there are things, no, that you need, quote unquote, that it's good because they actually give you an opportunity to achieve your full potential. And going back to Andrea's point earlier, no, actually it's also what helps you get higher incomes, for example. So that's education, health. So basic needs, it's more active, passive. Capabilities is more purposive and more active. No? It's to push you to your full potential. And Amartya Sen, if you've seen the video, identifies 5 different domains. No? And we don't really have to discuss that in depth. No? But he's basically saying that it's political. No? If you know the government structure, the government, how the government works, allows you to actually, say your piece. No? You're free to speak your mind. You're free to voice your own opinion. You're free to vote for people. That's good for self-actualization. Economic, I mean, obviously, if the country's economy is doing well, then that's good as well. No? So of course, economic is still important, but again, it's not the be-all and end. Social, that's part of it. No, I mean, if you have good social networks, no, if the environment allows you to interact more, no, it's also good for you. Transparency guarantees, that's tied to political and governance, and of course peace and security. No, if you're not scared to leave your house, no? Or if you're scared to leave your house, then you can't fulfill your own potential. No? So there's more to these 5 dimensions, but you don't really have to know them in depth. No? But just know that the way the evolution of the non-income measures was from basic needs, then now it's more about what do you need to achieve your full potential. So it's, if you go back to our favorite cartoon, it's kind of like the fish versus teaching them how to fish. No, basic needs is more, oh, give me fish. That's food. It's a basic need. Teach me how to fish. It's more enhancing your capabilities so that you can get the fish eventually. So it's more active. It's more about empowering you to meet your basic needs. So it's a means to your basic needs, actually, to think about it. And as I mentioned earlier, we are trying to be doctors here, no? The different dimensions you use it will be used to inform what we want to do, no? What we want to target. All right. So just let me know, no, if you have questions. But it's pretty straightforward. The way the non-income measures part is actually pretty straightforward. It's not as technical as the income-based. So this is one of the standard well-being indicators globally. No? So the UN publishes this every year, no, through their Human Development Report. No? So again, this is anchored on capabilities, no, approach, not basic needs. No? So what a person needs to achieve their full potential. So it's 3 dimensions. If you summarize it, it's health, education, and income. I mean, health, it's like how long, the indicator they use to here is for that country, what's the average life expectancy? At what age up to what age do people live? Because that's a good proxy or an indicator of the health system in the country. Knowledge, it's school attainment, school enrollment, no, because again, both of these, no, being healthy and being well educated can actually lead you to, you guys are studying in Ateneo, for example, it can land you good jobs, for example. And that's tied to income as well. The UN uses GNI per capita. For our purposes, GDP, GNP, GNI, they're all interchangeable. When you, again, GDP, GNI, etc., that's just the total income of the country. If you divide it by per capita just means per person. So that's the average income of all Filipinos. So that's how they measure it globally. So just 3 dimensions, very simple. And the reason they have a simple index is they want to compare across countries. So the UN ranks countries according to their scores here. So the Philippines actually has been improving. We are technically part of because they divide it into brackets, high, low, and medium human development status. We are actually part of the high human development status, pero we are down below. But at least we're part of the high bracket. So, pero pasang awa to a certain extent. There's also another measure. This is no longer used. What replaced this, we will discuss in the next slide. HPI is actually, it was a sort of an accompaniment to the HDI before. It's just the flip side. So here it's more positive, healthy life, educational attainment. Here it's the opposite. So it's actually not surviving up to the age of 40. It's not being literate. It's not having basic access to basic utilities and amenities and malnourishment. So it's again, all of these things again are predictors of or enablers of or non-enablers, the opposite of enablers. These are things that can inhibit a person from being capable of achieving their full potential. I don't need to discuss this in depth. What replaced this is what we call the multidimensional poverty index, MPI. So it's basically an elaboration or a longer HPI list. So still the same dimensions, the standard of living, health, education, but it's broken down into even more indicators. So for health, it's just like the HPI, it's malnourishment and child mortality, 0 to 5 years old, dying, years of schooling and school attendance for education. Standard of living is basically the assets you have and then how you live. Cooking fuel is included here because in many really poor countries, their main source of cooking fuel is uling, charcoal, which is not good for health and the environment. Sanitation, do they have a proper toilet? Drinking water, do they have access to potable water? Electricity, housing, do they have a sturdy house? Are they occupying the house legally or not? Assets, cash, savings, some basic amenities as well. So the Philippines, we have been improving a little bit, following the trend of the HDI. So although some red flags are, housing, access to water, and hunger. The Philippines, by the way, more than 50% of our population now live in urban areas. So the demand for basic amenities, especially housing, has gone up. Supply has not kept up. And we still continue to struggle with health and nutrition and even employment. Health and nutrition, that's a ticking time bomb, according to economists. Based on recent studies, almost a third of Filipinos are experiencing some form of malnutrition or lack of food. And the problem with that is, going back to the capabilities approach, the problem with that is the studies they've done is lack of nourishment actually limits, especially when you're malnourished as a kid, it inhibits your full mental capacity. It puts a lower bar, lower limit to your mental capacity. So in the long run, if you have 1/3 of Filipino kids malnourished in one form or another, what will happen to their productivity in the future? Limited then. So that's a red flag. So going now to the national, no? Kasi kanina global, no? The global ones are HDI, HPI na that became MPI. Now we go to a local, to the local measures. The most popular one, no, at the national level, and this is very similar. If you compare this to the MPI, they're almost the same. They're almost exactly the same, or just different weeks. No? So the APIS actually came before the MPI. We've been measuring this since 1998 or 97, if I remember correctly. Way back when I was still in college. So if you notice, I'll just quickly run through this. If you have questions, let me know. But similar to the MPI, same thing, no? Employment status is the breadwinner or the parents employed. Educational attainment of the household head. Are they did they finish high school at least, no, or not? Enrollment status, are the kids going to school? Tenure status of housing, meaning are the families occupying the land legally or not? Are they squatting or not? Quality of housing, no, same thing. So it's not just whether it's illegal or not, no, but it's do they have a sturdy? Is the house made of sturdy materials, concrete, or just wood, makeshift materials, etc., etc. So they actually have different categories if you browse through APIS. No? I think I included a discussion board on APIS just for you to sort of get familiar, no, with what's inside an APIS report. Access to electricity, water, that's basic now, no? Access to sanitation, again, do you have your own toilet at home? Do you have a toilet in the community? Or, in other poor communities, do you go to the forest to take a dump? So it's that. Presence of household conveniences, phones, TV, etc. They measure that as well because, in the past, no, they were doing studies. No, sometimes the kind of household appliances that you have is a good predictor whether you're poor or not. Dati washing machine. If you have a washing machine, most likely you are not poor, no? According to income measures. Income and expenditure, actually the APIS also has data on income and expenditure, but it's not as rigorous as the one in the FIES. Remember, the FIES is done every 3 years, and that's their basis for the poverty statistics, the poverty incidence, and the subsistence incidence, and the Gini. And by the way, trivia, so as you learned last time, no, the FIES, the poverty incidence measures, are done every 3 years lang. For those years that we don't have the FIES or poverty incidence measures, we have the APIS. So ito yung annual except when there is that FIES. So hunger also is another important thing, no? Kind of tied to malnutrition. And then access to credit and loans. No? That has become a more basic need now. No? This just means that you're basically asking the question, if a family needs some sort of a safety net or to borrow money to tide them over, can they go to the bank? Do they have a bank account? Can they borrow a loan, etc.? That's what we call financial inclusion in the development world. Before I leave this slide, just wanted to clarify, for your own information as well. No? What do we mean by employment? And I wanted to ask you guys, what's your understanding when someone says you are unemployed? What does that mean? No? I just want because a lot of people mistake this term, employment. When you are unemployed, what does that mean? Can someone tell me? Sige, Gab.
Sir, if you have any source of income, you're employed. If you don't, then you're unemployed.
Let me ask you, Gab, are you unemployed?
Yes.
Okay. Sige. Any other answers? I see Sophia was raising her hand. Do you have the same answer?
Yeah, sir, I was just gonna say, like, if you don't have a stable source of income, then you're unemployed.
All right. Good thing I took time to clarify this. No? But thank you for that. No? But that is the popular misconception. No? You guys are students. Sige nga, Abay. Try tayo. Go ahead. And I don't want you guys to know this already. So okay lang yun. Sige, Abay. Go ahead.
Maybe someone without a paid job but is available for work.
You almost got it, Abay. Actually. Almost, no?
Close.
You guys are, by definition, and you might find it funny, no? Pero it's quite technical. You guys are not employed, but you guys are not unemployed. A person is considered unemployed if that person doesn't have a job, obviously, is available, and looking for a job. Because people who are not looking, let's say, like housewives, for example, no? Not to be gender, or husbands. No? If the breadwinner, for example, is the woman, and they for example, decide, no, oh, the husband will just stay at home and take care of the kids, that husband is not unemployed, because that person is not looking for a job. You have to be looking, you have to be available and looking for a job before you are considered unemployed. Kasi it doesn't make sense, no, but to count you guys as part of the unemployed force. Hindi, it's not fair, di ba? You only count someone, and it makes statistical decision making sense, di ba? If I'm a policymaker, I want to focus on those people, not necessarily who are jobless, no, but those jobless who are actually who want to work. So yeah, good thing I clarified that, because that's a confusion among many people. There's another important term, no, when we're talking about employment statistics. Underemployment. I don't know if anyone has come across underemployment. Some people can be employed, but they can be underemployed. Underemployed means you want a full-time job, let's say 40 hours a week, but something is happening, no, the labor market is not that great, no, there's lack of jobs, or it doesn't suit your skills, where you're not able to work full-time. You're underemployed, meaning you want more money, but you can't, because you can only do a part-time job. And that's actually a worse, a more, what do you call this? A worse problem in the Philippines than unemployment. Most people in the Philippines, pre-pandemic, by the way, no, I'll call you Andrea. Pre-pandemic, most people were the unemployment statistics in the Philippines were hovering around 5% before, no. Pero underemployment has always been double digits, meaning most people have work, but they want to work more kasi they're not completing the 40 hours, beating yung income nila. Go ahead, Andrea.
Hello, sir.
Sige.
Ayun, I think yung definition, I was going to ask lang if the definition I know is also right, because I heard na underemployed can also mean you're overqualified for the job you're in.
That can be a reason, but that's not the definition. Kasi maybe they only hire you part-time because they're too expensive, because you're overqualified. So, kumbaga, I want to work more, but no, sorry, we can only offer you this much. That can be a reason, but that's not the definition. All right. So I hope that was useful. No? So if you have similar lessons in the past, you can raise your hand. I know the definition. So, but it's a very important distinction. And it's an important distinction if you pay attention to those indicators in your CBMS assignment. Diba? Meron yun sa CBMS. All right. So now we move to the CBMS 1. No? So CBMS, if we were, yung APIS kasi, it comes out every year. It's a national survey. And it can only produce national, meaning Filipino, countrywide measures. Kunyari, 20% of Filipinos have poor access to sanitation. Yun lang. Up to the regions, pwede pala. But nothing further down. If you want to go further down, no, examine the data for local governments, no, municipalities, cities, even barangays, no, you go through the CBMS, a community-based monitoring system. So it's kind of like, again, it's like a localized version of the APIS. It has like, I think it's now 15 indicators. No? At one point, this is a backstory. No? At one point, and it's a combination of basic needs and capabilities indicators. No? At one point, no, you might be thinking, sir, ang dami namang indicators. No? Why? Grabe naman. At one point, actually, when they started this, no, it was called the MBN before, no? Minimum Basic Needs. It was 33 indicators. Then they were able to narrow it down to 24. Then they narrowed it down to 12. Then I think they added a few more in recent years. Ngayon, 15 na yata. So this is the standard indicators. No? So before, this was optional for local governments to do. Pero I think they passed the CBMS Act. No? There's now a law mandating, no, requiring LGUs to actually have this in place, which is good because you need data, no, for if you want evidence-based decision making. Just as an aside again, no? So the benefit of CBMS, and we'll go to that in the next slide. But I'll ask a question first. The CBMS is supposed to be, ito na lang, can anyone tell me if you know, no, what's the difference between a census and a survey? Sige, Marco, go ahead.
Survey is just the sample, tapos census is the
Okay.
whole population.
Perfect. So perfect definition. The FIES, the survey where the poverty incidence, etc., income-based measures are derived, that's a survey. I think the sample size is 44,000 or so. Same thing with the APIS. It's a national survey. Kaya nga, it's a sample and they can only go as far as regional kasi maliit yung sample size. I'm sure you guys took basic statistics already. So CBMS is supposed to be a census. It's not a sample. If, for example, if you go to your assignment, no, I posted three cities or 4 cities, no, where you can choose one. No? For Marikina, for example, no, it's a census. They will ask all the households in Marikina about this information. So they can have data up to the household level kasi census and up to the barangay level. So that's just one important distinction between the local CBMS, no, very hyper local, and the national surveys. Surveys are samples. I like, no, si Dr. Jose Ramon Albert, si Toots, no, I know him personally. The one in the Rappler article, which talks about, he's a poverty measurement geek, no? Really good guy, no? Solid guy. The way he likens sampling, no, is like slicing a cake, a piece of cake, to sample it. That's a sample. It's not the whole cake, but it gives you a good representation of what the entire cake tastes like. So it's a good analogy. So yun, similar, no? So just to go through this, so you have different dimensions: health, nutrition, housing, water and sanitation, education, income, employment. So again, That's child mortality and even maternal mortality. Kasi it's important, no? If women die while they're pregnant, no, it means there's something wrong with the healthcare system. No? Proportion of children who are malnourished, obviously there's a problem as well. No? Those households who are not living in sturdy houses, that's also important. And then if they're squatting, no, they're occupying the land illegally. Water and sanitation, no, do they have access to potable water or not? Do they have good acceptable sanitary facilities? Are the kids in school, no? And are they in their grade level that's appropriate for them? Kasi baka mamaya they're so behind, no? You're 10 years old and you're just in grade 1. So that's also measured as well. Of course, income is also there. So this is a combination of income and non. It's really good. It's a combination of income and non-income measures. Similar to malnutrition, no, who experience hunger or what we call food insecurity. No? Employment, no, who are unemployed, and then finally, have you been a victim of crime? So that's also part of well-being. So why is CBMS important? Can anyone tell me your thoughts? So why have all of these 15 or so indicators? Why? The local level. What's the use? What's the value added of having such a system? Or wala lang, trip lang. What's the use? Sige, Jose. Then Marco. Go ahead, both of you.
Sir, hello.
Sige.
Because if with this information, you're able to identify what certain areas, especially since it's a census. For a local level, you can identify certain problem areas that could be that needs to be addressed in your certain area as well as national. And then on the flip side, it can be also used to assess the impact of any possible projects that you have already implemented. So that way you're able to identify the beneficiaries and the benefits of what you've already done, as well as areas that you need to work on more.
Great, very good. Si Marco also wanted to say something.
Sir, maybe you can also look at the trends. Parang you can see if it's improving or not. Just like if you just do it like if you don't see the trend, you won't really be able to see if it's actually improving or not. And then you can also look at it like to compare one city to another city. So like maybe the city is experiencing more problems in terms of education, while the other one's experiencing more problems in terms of childhood mortality. So you can kind of parang make assumptions on the trend and the comparable cities.
Yeah, very. Sorry, I muted myself. But very good. No? Very good, both Jose and Marco. No? So just to summarize what you said, no, and it's good for planning. No, actually, you went beyond this. No, my wife was laughing at me, no, before when I was doing this slide. It's like, why do you have a slide within a slide? As you probably observed in Canvas, it's not that I'm too lazy to create my own content, no, but sometimes other sources can articulate and have more gravitas than me, no, are more they have more authority to speak on these things. No? So this is an actual slide from from an actual presentation of a local government in one of the CBMS conferences. Dati, no, I don't know if they're still doing this. They hold an annual forum, no, a CBMS forum, no, DILG together with a non-government group. No. So they ask some local governments to present. No. So what as a local government, no, what's the benefit? No, they're saying it's evidence-based, no. As Jose was saying earlier, you can identify the beneficiary, census share. So you know the levels, you know who needs things. No? And that's also good for budgeting. No? So it's evidence-based planning. No? Up to the household, up to the barangay, up to the household level. And you can even identify beneficiaries. So you can, and from that, you can compute how much money you need. Budgeting. And yun. And Jose and Marco were talking about trends, no? And yun nga, you can probably if you have like if the LGU does it on an annual basis or every few years, no, you can see the trends, no, whether they're improving or not. And you can maybe deduce, no, whether what you're doing is working or not. Although there's a caveat to that, no? For you to really say that what you're doing, for example, no, nag-improve yung indicators, for you to be really able to say that it's because of your intervention, there's a statistical method for that. You can't just say na, nag-improve yung ano dahil sa akin. No. There are statistical methods for you to be able to safely and confidently say that it's because of that intervention. And I like what Marco also said, no? Going beyond local policymakers like mayors, no? If you're the national government or provincial government, if I have CBMS data from my other municipalities, well, then I can compare their state. No, maybe I need to focus more on X municipality than Y, no, in terms of funding for this, diba? So prioritization also, no? Targeting. Actually, as an aside again, trivia lang. I think, no, I may be wrong, but I think that this is what they did when they were targeting. In development parlance, when you say targeting, it's identifying the beneficiaries of programs. When they were targeting beneficiaries for the 4Ps program, no, yung conditional cash transfer program, they used the FIES and APIS. Then when it came to actually identifying the beneficiaries, they used a combination of local data, including CBMS. So it's very useful both at the local level if you're a mayor and at the national level. Kasi if you have a national program, sino beneficiaries ko? Then, you know, you have a prioritization tool. Because as we keep saying, that's the use of combining income and non-income measures. No? You can have a better diagnosis. You can then come up with appropriate interventions and then identify pa who are the beneficiaries. All right. Thanks for that very interesting discussion, very active discussion. The last thing, no, before we go to your CBMS assignment, and this is very quick. No? Just wanted for your own information, kind of like trivia, or at least you have something new, no, new knowledge for you guys. The things we discuss are not the only measures of well-being. There are also others out there. And this is pretty cool. This is a cool example of a country being innovative. So ito yung tinatawag na Eastern-Western dichotomy. No? Tayong mga Asians, no, versus Western. They say Asians are more Eastern-oriented, meaning more spiritual, philosophical, more social. Western naman, more cold, more hard facts, more scientific. Kaya nga Bhutan is of the Eastern tradition, no? They put a premium on happiness, on spirituality, on the environment, etc. So they came up with this index. No? It's also rigorous. Kala nyo it's all fluff. Happy ka ba na? No, they actually codify and they actually try to define, no, through indicators what are the elements of happiness. So very, very interesting. No? You still see, no, if you go to the different indicators, there are 33 indicators. No? And this is on Canvas, but I'll share this deck anyway. You still have the other standard well-being indicators, no, like living standards, etc., no? Education, health. No? But see, they put some premium also on psychological well-being, mental health, how much sleep you get, no? The environment as well plays a big role, no? Community vitality, no? So very, very interesting. They have the core well-being indicators that's used globally, but they also embellish it with their own twist on what well-being means. Galing. So yun nga, they even categorize it, no? If, for example, a family or a certain area is okay, all good on less than 50% of the indicators, unhappy ka. You're not happy. No? If out of all these 33 indicators, you're okay on 50 to 65%, you're narrowly happy. tapos medyo okay ka, extensively happy, if it's your 2/3, no? To 3/4 of these indicators, you're okay. Tapos solve na solve ka, deeply happy when it's 77% or more of these indicators that you're okay with. So it's pretty cool, di ba? Different take. Some have proposed us to use this as well in the Philippines. But of course, if you have indicators and you're running a survey, it costs money. Mahal magpa-survey. You need people on the ground, you need to print materials, etc., etc. Yung SWS nga, no, for example, ang costing nila, if you want to commission a survey with them, one question, and it's a sample only of 1,200 respondents. 1 million na yon per question ang cost. So it's really expensive to run a survey. Okay, just let me know if you have questions of the content. Now we go to the graded assignment. We're actually done for the night, no? Because the rest of module 2 is actually not that. It's straightforward, no? The non-income part. So just to review, it's already on Canvas at the end of module 2. Choose one of the decks showing the LGU CBMS data. No? There's 3. No? I don't remember anymore which ones I put there, no? Because I have like a pool of decks. Every sem that I teach this, I use a different set of areas. So I think Marikina is there, Saguday maybe, San Remigio. I actually forgot what I put there. So what is a summary? And before you ask questions, I know you might have more questions. I'll discuss FAQs. Just two common, frequently asked questions from all my previous classes before. And which one Marco, I think, asked at the start of class before we started class. So summarize, based on the CBMS data, and I actually, these are excerpts. By the way, I took out the interventions part of the decks, not to preempt you. So data lang talaga. You'll just find the data. Summarized data, by the way, not the raw data. So give me a summary of the development or poverty situation of the city or municipality. And then, what are the development challenges? No? Module 1. What do the data show? No? Don't give me trends kasi yun nga 1 year lang naman to. What does it show? No? Which among the indicators align with the SDGs? Just so we can tie it to module 1. But more importantly, which areas, as captured by monetary and non-monetary indicators, does the LGU have to focus and improve on? What are the weak indicators? Kahit based on 1 year lang. What initial, then, now the question is, you've diagnosed it, you're like a doctor. For example, put on your decision-making, policy-making hat. Kunyari kayo yung mayor. What initial interventions do you think the LGUs should design? Or if you want, predict what they probably designed in the past. What should be designed to respond to the situation? These 3 things are guide questions and sub-questions. This is not supposed to be, I repeat, this is not supposed to be the outline of how you write your paper. Feel free to sequence it however you want. All I want to see, go back to the rubric, no? I want to see cohesive writing. You're limited to 2 pages. No? You decide on the format, must not be more than 2 pages, either single or double spaced. Use the commonly used fonts, Times New Roman 12, Calibri or Arial 11. MS Word or PDF format is okay. Let me go to the FAQs now. Just 2. Yeah, just 2. One is, sir, are we required to base our answers solely from the data you have provided us? Or are we supposed to refer to outside sources? If so, which format citation do you prefer? I think I answered this when Marco asked this right before we started class. Yes, the assessment, the diagnosis part of the indicators should come solely from the slides provided. You may refer, may lang to I would prefer you do not, but you may refer to external sources for the part on interventions, but that is really optional. And I really prefer um, reading what you're thinking, your own thoughts. No? I am not expecting you guys to be development experts. This may be new to you, but I want to see your own thinking here. So, but if you're really sort of parang, ay sir, parang I really don't know what interventions, you may refer to external resources to help guide your thinking. But don't use it as a crutch. I really prefer. No? And don't give me very, very general things like, sir, there's problem with livelihood. The government should give them jobs. And that's not what I'm looking for. Be thoughtful in the way you diagnose and answer the exam. If you really, really, really want to include external resources, we can use the APA format or any. I'm not anal when it comes to citation. You can use the APA, parenthetical notes. Kayo bahala. As long as it's a mainstream citation format. But again, I would rather that you just stick to the PDF and then your own thoughts. What should they do? Next question before I entertain more questions for you. This one is a bit might be confusing for some. No? So, sir, what is the difference between one, people who live in makeshift houses, and two, people who are considered informal settlers? Are they one and the same, or are they distinct? This is my answer. Sorry, it's a long answer, no? But they often overlap. No? In many cases, people who are living illegally, which we call informal settlers or squatters, informal settlers. By the way, squatters is not a derogatory term, no? Unless you're using it as an insult, obviously. If you're occupying your land illegally, it doesn't mean you are living in a makeshift house. There is stronger likelihood. No? So they are different. Informality has to do more with, do you have the legal permission or authority to be on that piece of land? If not, you are an informal settler. If you're living in a makeshift house, it's the quality of your housing, the materials of the walls, the roof, the flooring. Do you have actual floors, or is it mud, or is it just the ground? No, but it doesn't. You can be legally or illegally occupied. So they are separate. But more often than not, no, kasi yun nga. So for example, sometimes, especially for for informal settlements, slum areas that, that's been there forever, decades already, no, you see a lot of more durable houses. Kasi parang de facto, they're already there. Parang most likely, they won't get pushed away na. They won't get demolished na. So parang, sige, okay na sila. So they will start building durable housing. But more often than not, those who live in slum areas or illegally occupying land have makeshift houses. And vice versa. More often than not, those who live in sturdy houses are squatting. So the overlap is common, but they are technically separate. So I am now open to questions. If you have some. See, we're finished in an hour, unless you have questions. More questions.
Sir, I read something somewhere. I mean, I was researching about the capabilities approach and the other like the approaches. Is basic needs the same as entitlements? Because parang I read something about entitlements, and then the definition was the same, more or less, or not sure, sir.
Yung entitlements, I think that's Amartya saying. Again, the entitlements is more aligned, more closely related to the basic needs. Kasi entitlement is, I need this. This belongs to me. Capabilities really is, I need this so that I can meet my what's entitled to me. Diba? So so you must ganun siya. Mas ganun siya.
Thank you, sir, for clarifying.
All right. Sure. Any other question on the content or the assignment? All right, perfect. It's dinner time. All right, thank you guys again for joining me. All right, no more questions. I'll post this on Canvas tomorrow and the deck as well. Okay, many thanks. Have a good evening. See you next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir. Happy dinner.
Sir.
Happy dinner too.